All right, good day. How are you? This is Ben Schreiber, managing broker for eXp in Kentucky. And I'm proud and honored to be joined by Mitch Riback with eXp Realty as well. So we get a lot of questions, a lot as far as independent brokerages or small teams who are thinking about joining the eXp platform. So I wanted to bring Mitch on today to kind of dive into that subject a little bit more in depth. I was kind of let him tell his story and kind of provide all the reasons, all the pros and cons, and kind of just have that conversation today. So Mitch, thanks for joining. How are you?
Doing great. Thanks for having me on here, Ben. I appreciate it.
Welcome. So
So,
obviously we go way back, but obviously our audience does it. So tell us your story, a little bit about you and how you came to be with eXp.
sure. So, it was a tough decision, right? At the time I did this was in 2017, and there was really no brokers my size that had switched over. So I didn't have somebody like me to talk to. So I'll give you the backstory. I mean, I owned a brokerage. We had 120 agents doing about 700 transactions a year. The dirty little secret is we weren't making any real money. The broker thing is you're broker than your agents, which is very true, right?
Yeah. Right.
And most of you brokers out there understand that. So I turned 55 in January of 2016. In my family, my dad died at 58, my mother died at 59, and most of my relatives died in their 50s. And I really started thinking, and what happens if something happens to me? Like, what's the game plan here if I do die in the next few years? I don't plan on it, and I haven't. Luckily, I'm still here. But what's the game plan? Because as a broker, if you die, unless you
You
have
got to think about that exit strategy, right? It's just not, hey, what am I doing tomorrow? It's
right,
life.
no, it's how to get out. What happens?
Yeah.
So as a broker, if I died, my 120 agents scatter, and my family gets nothing. And unfortunately, I didn't make enough money as a broker to really buy a lot of assets. Right. I put everything into my company and I kept reinvesting in my company, which is what we do as business people, right?
Right.
So come later on that year, probably I think I was like June or July or August of 16. I was showering, I was in the not showers, shaving, and I was looking in the mirror and I go, really, what happens if something happens to you? And I really said, I think it's time to sell the company. So I went out and I put a little plan together, approached some people, and I got a couple of offers for 3.5 million, which is a good offer. I was pretty happy with that.
Well,
I mean,
yeah.
and so decided to go with one of the franchises, and we go through the final negotiations, and they explained to me how you get paid. You get a little money the first year, a little money the second year. The third year, you get your final payment, which is about 70%. But here was the kicker: it was based on the retention of my original 120 agents.
Okay. Yep. Yeah.
So I said to them, I said, look, so let me get this straight. So I understand this. If you guys are really bad at what you do and half my agents leave, does my 3.5 go to 1.75? They said, yes. I can't say on camera what I actually said, but I said no.
Yeah.
It just didn't make sense
I mean,
to me.
you spent all that time and energy. I mean, it's your brand, and it's probably. I mean, we'll talk about not the ego, but giving that up as far as that. But obviously, that's a tough thing to swallow. If they don't do things the same standards as you did, then that's not necessarily your fault, right? So
Right. And I can't control that. Even if I grew the business to 500 agents, I would still get based on the original 120. So it just didn't make sense to me.
sure.
So I immediately let go of 50 agents. I had a lot of agents that were costing me a lot of money in support, in space, that weren't going to ever plug in.
Yeah.
We all know that as brokers, you have 30% that do almost all your business, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And so I let go of 50 agents, went down to about 60, 65 agents. And then I made a phone call to Jason Gessing from the CEO of eXp. Jason and I had met 3 times prior. I started looking at this in 2015 because I love the model. I mean, I love the model from day one, but as you mentioned earlier, my ego's involved. At the time I was looking at, I was a district vice president in the state of Florida. The year before, I was the president of our board. The ego, I'm the guy.
Right.
But the guy wouldn't be any good if I was dead, right? So I called Jason. I said, Jason, are you going to be at Inman in January? So this is January 2017. He said, yes. I later found out he did not want to talk to me because I said no the last 3 times we talked. He didn't want to waste his time. But anyways, we met and I said, Jason, my biggest issue is my brand. I built this great brand. We do 700 transactions, as I said, in Tropical Realty Beachside. We got a great reputation and nobody's heard of eXp.
Yeah.
At the time, we're talking 50 agents in the state of Florida.
Right. This is 2017, right?
So this January 2017. So he said something to me. If he had said to me a couple of years earlier, which he didn't, I probably would have switched earlier. He said, just be Tropical Realty Beachside, brokered by eXp. So I go, all right, so I'm not changing my brand, I'm just changing my operating system. He goes, exactly.
Right.
I go, okay, that made a lot of sense. So from there I came home and, remember my wife knew we just deal fell apart for the 3.5 million.
Sure.
And I said, honey, I think we're going to just give the company away. She's like, what? And you met my wife. I mean, she's very much a strong part of my life, right?
Yes.
And I said, well, here's the deal. We can't sell the company because of what I've told her before, what we just went through. And this is an opportunity where if it does what I think it's going to do, I could retire in 5 years, where I'll never retire from being a broker. That'll never happen.
Right.
If it doesn't do what I think it's going to do, the worst case scenario is I just go back to being Tropical Realty Beachside. The worst case scenario.
Yeah, because you're empowered to keep your own brand, just brokered by here, right? So yes, it's
Yeah. And then I said the worst case scenario, if none of my agents followed me back, I'll go sell houses again.
Yeah.
I mean, I was still selling 30 homes a year back then. But when I sold houses full time, I sold 80 plus homes a year. So I'm really good at selling houses, which is why I've had so many agents follow me over the years, because I teach them how to do what I did.
Yeah.
So that was it. So Jeanette went online. There's a great video if you're out there and you are a broker or even just an agent, you want to see from a spouse's perspective. If you search my name, which is just Mitch Riback, and my wife's name, Jeanette, so Mitch Riback, Jeanette on YouTube, there's a great video that she did as a spouse of a broker who switched to EXP and what it's done for our family.
Probably what we'll do is obviously it'll be both on our YouTube channels. We'll put that link in the chat as well, so people can kind of see that as additional resource. So
Exactly.
no, that's so let's go back. So obviously, yes, there's obviously your credibility. So first broker with EXP, but let's, there's a lot of things there on unwind, because obviously, we're talking to entrepreneurs, right? We're talking to people who want to do their own brokerages and understand that their brokerage or their team is in theory a mini brokerage, and they're, and that it's a different mindset than just normal agent, right? It's a business owner, right? So with that, so let's kind of go back to that psyche, right? It will kind of connect with all of us who are probably interested in this video, the why, right? Always start with why. So, the things you made, you're like, why would someone want to start their own brokerage in the first place? Why did you do it? Right. I mean, all those dreams, all those visions, right. And all those things. So bring us back to that beginning of where all of us were who wanted to do that, or those who have.
Yeah. So the funny part is nobody really tells you that nobody makes any money when they're a broker.
Yeah.
When you go to real estate school, the first thing they tell you is, you're going to get your license, you're going to sell homes. And when you get bigger, you'll start a team. And once you have a really solid team, you start a brokerage, and that's the real estate life.
Yeah.
So why do we start any business? We start every business.
It's that transactional treadmill, right? How do you get off? But on this broker mindset, hey, where's the end? Where's this going to go to, right?
So everybody starts their businesses for leverage and freedom. I started a brokerage for leverage and freedom. But the reality is, and I don't mean this as an insult to anybody, I love my agents. I created prison, right, and babysitting.
Yeah,
that was what I created. I created a dependency, which was my business model for retention. Right. But the dependency was so strong that there was no way out.
Right. It's that grind, and you and I have talked about this so many times over the last couple of years. Right? Do we enable, empower, right? But when you're the broker, like you got to create that crutch. You got to create that dependency. You got to be enable, and then and it's tough. It's tough to kind of get them to break through. But as the leader, you want to push those people up, right?
But we had to, we had a lot to do before we could make the switch. Remember, there was nobody like me to have a conversation.
Yeah.
So like I said, I was not the first broker. I was the first big broker. Most brokers, I think the biggest was like 5 or 10 agents before me. But so after I met with my wife and I said, well, what do we have to lose? The worst case scenario we looked at, we could deal with the worst case scenario. It wasn't that big of a deal. So I went and now I took 34 of my top agents. They did 92% of my business of my 65 agents. And we sat them down and I explained that, just like I said a little earlier, we're not changing our culture. We're going to change our operating system, which is a better opportunity, more tools, more support, more opportunity for you that I cannot possibly ever give you as an independent or even a small franchise broker, right? I mean, we have 2,000 support people. I had 4.
Right.
You couldn't do that. So I got them, 33 of the 34 said yes.
Okay.
And when we switched over with 40 agents in June of 2017.
You could let me take a step back real quick. So obviously we'll talk about the leverage and that growth to get to the next level. But so the why, as far as doing it, obviously financial opportunities, owning your own business, ego, building your own brand, putting your own stamp on things,
It was a
helping
legacy. It's a legacy.
legacy,
I'm
right?
trying to create a legacy for my family,
Yeah.
right? That was always my goal originally. Every business I've started, I've had 23 over the last 42 years,
Yeah.
has been to create something better for my family,
Yeah. Pass it
right?
on, right? The legacy.
And for my agents. I love my agents.
Any
For them.
agents, right? I mean, any true good broker, we treat our agents who we help the same way as, a good agent treats their clients, right? They look out for their best interest and really want to help their business grow as well, and be there to be passionate of helping and supporting all those things. So, all right. So we know all the reasons why people do it, right? As far as a big dream, aspirations, hey, growth and stay in our region or national, and we'll talk about those growth opportunities. But let's take a step back. So pain points, right? So something had to happen. All these dreams, you're obviously running a successful business and all those, besides just the legacy thing, but there's the daily grind, right? Of team, small brokerage, of what those pain points are. You made the broke, it puts the broke in the broker joke, but what are some of those pain points you experienced of where you reached that point of where, okay, hey, I'm mentally, emotionally, and financially ready to see what else is out there in terms of this. So touch on some of those.
Yeah, I'll give you a couple. So one
Yeah.
was, I averaged between 10 and 20 phone calls every single day from agents, every day, 7 days a week. Even on vacation, there was never a vacation.
Right.
I mean, I get away. I might have a day where I don't get a phone call or 2 or 3 because they knew I was on vacation, but there was always a reason why they had to call me.
Right.
So that was pretty painful because, it killed my marriage with my wife. It killed my relationship with my grandkids. I wasn't seeing my grandkids growing up at all, which is what I did with my kids. I didn't see my kids grow up. So it was but it was much worse than any business I owned before.
So it's a lot like what agents experience, right? The flexibility of their business, but they really don't have much control, right?
Yeah, and as a broker, if you're not there as a
freedom.
broker, you're not there as a broker, they leave.
Yeah.
But the other thing, and if you're a broker, this story, is someone would knock on the door and come on in and, hey, Mitch, can we chat for a minute? And like, sure. And it's be someone I grew them from a brand new agent to now selling $10 million a year. And they say, you've been the best mentor I could ever have. I actually love you, but I'm going to go over this company now. All the time. So you work your butt off to get someone to be like you, but in the same thing, I did the same thing, right?
Right.
I left my broker to go and start my brokerage.
Right.
So everybody does that who's successful. They leave their original broker,
Right.
and sometimes might go 2 to 3 different brokers before they find their spot. Now, the beauty of EXP, when someone leaves my team now, they don't leave EXP. I teach them how to be me.
Right.
And I still benefit from it financially. I'm now business partners with them versus they're just an agent in my group.
And it goes that opportunity, which we'll dive into later, right? It goes back to what you said as far as empowering them and helping them and being there. So other pain points, overhead, legal liabilities, lawsuits. I mean, the other broker that I think a lot of people, something, broker, I get to be 100% commission and I get to keep all my money, right? But those other things that they don't realize that eat up and kind of make that put that broke into broker. What are some of those pain points as well?
Yeah. So, let's talk about the money for a second.
Yeah.
So I 700 transactions here was $4.5 million in revenue. People would say that's pretty darn good, right?
Yeah.
Agents were on a 75% split. If they weren't, they'd be taken by somebody else immediately.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Gone are the days where you can offer people 50%. Those days are long gone. And so I just want to do some simple math here. My overhead was $100,000 a month. 75% of 4.5 is 1.125 million. Right? Overhead was 1.2 million. It's like $75,000 negative right there.
Right.
If I didn't sell homes and have my coaching platform and my coaching program, I'm broke, completely broke.
That's a great point, because I don't think a lot of people think of that. If the end goal is that legacy, or if they take themselves out of production, can that business as a broker sustain itself and grow? And obviously, as we've learned from talking to a lot of people across the country, that's a no, right?
No, I just talked to
any market, any shifting market, right? And
I just talked to a broker a couple weeks ago, 15 agent, great person. How's your year going? Great. And I said, she's I could never join EXP. We're just doing so well. Why would I do that? And I said, well, let me look at your numbers, because maybe you're right. Maybe this is not the right move for you. I'm not going to lie to anybody about this. And so we dissected her numbers. I took her numbers out, and she was right. She is killing it, but her company lost $7,500 last year.
You mean if she wasn't selling, then, right, and yeah, a lot of people don't think that way, right? But yes,
No,
yeah,
and unfortunately, a lot of small brokers don't know their numbers. I talked to another broker friend of mine who's contemplating joining, and she works from January to June selling houses full time to pay for the office. No
it's
freedom.
real,
So again, you try for freedom and leverage. That's why you start any business,
right?
but you get babysitting in prison. And the babysitting, by the way, is not your successful agents, all the other ones, but the successful agents are going to leave. As soon as they find a better deal for their family, which I don't blame them, a
Right,
better deal for their family, they're going to leave.
right. I mean,
Right.
they'll either, yeah, it's a combination, right, of either when people leave or join a brokerage, it's a combination of culture, support, and money, right? I mean, all three of those have to be right for someone to join, but it's also the reason why someone's leaving. So if it's not just the money, they're not seeing value, right, in the support and possibly the culture as well. So a couple other pain points to hit on, right? So you talk about the money. So there's a lot of overhead to properly provide that support, right? You're talking other staff, you're talking technologies, right? I mean, all those things as well that
Well,
brokers
you have to
pay
buy
for.
all this stuff because they come to you and say, well, XYZ Realty is going to offer me this,
Right,
right? And so I'm going to buy that program for my 120 agents at $1,000 a month overhead with a 3-year contract.
Mhm.
And then out of the 120 people, two people, 3 people use it.
Absolutely, right.
It happens all the time to all of
Sure.
us. And I talk to 5 to 10 brokers every single week rather, for our company. And it's the same story. I talked to a broker in New Jersey recently. We went over his 2021 numbers, and with 350 agents, he made $104,000 profit. And same thing.
Yeah.
He goes, nobody uses it. Nobody uses the stuff. You have a couple of big people say, I need this, I need this, I need this. I
Right,
need an office in this location because that's where I'm doing most of my business. I don't want to drive a half out of the office to do what I need to do. So you open an office there, and you tell all your agents, and they're all excited. They all come to the grand opening party and have great food and wine and beer and vodka, and then they never use it. Last year we had the office. We analyzed the last 3 months of 2016. We had a 5,000 square foot office, a 3,600 square foot office, and a 2,000 square foot office. Our main office, remember, 120 agents.
right.
2 people a day would come in for less than an hour each, and we had 7 staff. And then our other 2 offices, 2 people would come in a week in the other 2 satellite offices. So literally nobody used the office, but my rent alone was $18,000 a month.
Yeah, that's, yes.
Yeah, and that's
Well,
standard for everybody. It's
Sure.
everybody though.
Oh, yeah. And obviously, yes, and there's, and we can, I think a lot of people already know the details who are watching this or can. I mean, yeah, we have, there's solutions there with Regis or other local affiliations as well, where, as far as how our model works, but you're right. As far as that overhead, I mean, what really stuck to me, it's always the Blockbuster versus the Netflix thing, right? And not, this isn't just COVID, but I think it opened up a lot of people's eyes during the pandemic as far as the need of an office, but at least definitely having some hybrid space to be able to do it. But at the end of the day, you're right, the broker had to fit the bill, which then therefore, restricted kind of the commission and other support services, either if they can provide their agents, if they can get it elsewhere, then that's where the issue as far as with some of the brokers
Yeah.
retaining, right?
And the other big pain point, and I don't think people get this that much, is you're alone. You're alone running this business. I know you might have a partner, but you're generally alone. Nobody in your local market's going to help you. Right. I mean, that's just the way. You're all competitors. You might have friends that are brokers, but they're not telling you the secret sauce.
Yeah. Are you saying collaboration is a great core value to have in a company?
It doesn't suck.
Let's say one more point with that besides the alone, the liability, right? I mean, there's talk about, threats of lawsuits, things like that, E&O. I mean, it's a part of the business. A lot of agents don't even realize it's out there. Oh, that's the broker's problem. But I've heard some stories, and you and I were out in Vegas. We were in that room together as far as some penalties and fines that were paid out for actions of agents that weren't the broker's fault, but at the end of the day, they're responsible, right? So just hit on that a little bit of your experience talking to others as far as what the hell
we had
losing
our
sleep
last-
over and that plays into play.
Last year we had it was 3 almost lawsuits.
Yeah.
So almost lawsuits are just as bad because your insurance covers everything up to $1 million or $2 million. I think we had $2 million, and you have a $2,500 deductible, I think it was. However, if you don't tell the insurance company that you might have a lawsuit, they do not cover you.
They don't cover, right?
That was the first one. That one cost me $10,000
Oof.
in a settlement. The other times, so I got better at it. The next two times cost probably somewhere between 80 and 100 man hours to pull all the documentation in case I got sued. So we reached out to E&O and they said, well, pull all this stuff. We wanted to be ready. So I pulled all this stuff, 80 to 100 hours. It's probably more than that, to be honest with you. But here was the problem is when you get a lawsuit against you or potential lawsuit, you don't sleep.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
The stress level, and that's the other thing, I'm a really, you know me very well. I'm a very happy, positive person. And I was still outwardly like that with all my agents, but I did not sleep. I would literally be up nights, especially January and February. January and February is the worst months for a broker because agents decide to not sell in November, December. So I would do January and February, and I would literally not sleep, maybe 1 or 2 hours a night for 3 months. And I was hurting. It was rough financially.
Right.
And because you're virtually, I'd start the year with a decent amount of money in the bank, which, all gets taxed, of course, heavily. And then I would come into January, I'd do okay in January. I'd be losing money, but I always say, here's out of business, and here's where I'd go to, just like this, like an aircraft carrier to the touchdown. And then by March or April, I'd start to be healthy again. And it took me till July to break even.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
to break even.
Right.
Yeah. And that was sometimes I didn't break even at all for the whole year. So, when you go back to pain and talk about the pain of owning brokerage, from an ego standpoint, it's like, I drive nice cars, I wear nice suits. I played the game better than anybody I know. I did the president of the board, all the stuff, I'm a very respected realtor and broker in this area. However, nobody knew I was broke because a broker's not going to come out and tell an agent, yeah, by the way, we have no money.
Right.
Or by the way, I know I'm driving that leased car that looks like it's worth $100,000, but it only cost me $600 a month,
No, I mean, that's a great point as far as I said that, not saying ego is a bad thing, right? As far as having, self-confidence and belief in yourself. But I think the hardest thing we always talk about, when we coach our agents as far as being a listing agent, right, is trying to have that seller look objectively on their house when they price it, right? As far as, hey, if you were a buyer today, what would you think this house was worth? Take out your memories, take out your emotions, take out your financial goals, right? And it's kind of the same thing like as a broker now, right? Like look objectively on your situation. Take yourself out of production, take your numbers out, okay, and truly running this as a business. And I think that's where I think a lot of people will kind of see that maybe that light bulb might come off as far as exactly what happened to you back in 2016. So
yeah, I have a big luxury team right now. I'm talking that's with us, and he's debating. He's making more money than he ever had than when he was with Coldwell Banker before. However, he's still mentally struggling with, do I keep my team because of how much time it takes away from his stuff? Where he's building a decent sized organization. He's about 1,300 of my agents are under him. And so he's now understanding that leverage that I'm teaching him, leverage and freedom, because even though he has a team, and I'm not want to be grudge, anybody wants to start a team, it all depends where you are in your life and stuff. And teams make way more money than brokerages. So there's a financial benefit. He makes good money off a team.
yeah,
But he's also, he's getting up, he's in his 50s, and it's like, how much longer do you want to do that? Where you truly, in about another 12 months, based on his numbers, will make more from EXP than he'll make from his team.
Let's all right, we've talked about pain points. All right, you and I are both two of the optimistic, positive guys at EXP under 5'10". So, right. So let's talk about like solutions, right? As far as mindset. So we've discussed the branding perspective as far as, yes, a broker can keep their branding, just kind of be brokered by EXP, but still kind of have their own culture and their brand, their marketing, all those things. You mentioned team, right? So there's an option for a broker to basically kind of either form their own standard team, self-organized team, mega icon team, and still kind of run their brokerage within it. When we can drop some information as far as those different setups, but if they still want to be in production or still run a team, that option's there for them, correct?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get to be, I mean, one of the things, when I looked at this, because I'm a business guy, real estate's my product right now.
Yeah. Right.
And so when I looked at the model, I said, and I went back and forth. Do I want to start a team? Because I moved my group over as a team, 40 agents. But do I want to be, self-organized? Do I want to be a standard team? And I chose to go the self-organized rate because of being 56 at the time. I wanted to figure out more of an escape plan than a growth plan with selling real estate.
Right.
And again, it was a lot more challenging when I did it 5 years ago, or 5.5 years ago, because nobody had done it at my size. So it was tough to figure out how to set that up.
Sure.
And depending on everybody's situation out there would depend on how I would guide them into moving their brokerage over. People in my age group who are looking to escape, it's going to be different than someone who's 35 years old that wants to create an additional revenue source and put that into being a team leader. It just depends on where you're at. But the beauty of this model, in my original plan for real estate, was the reason why it was Tropical Realty was to open up Tropical Realty offices all the way from here to San Diego. So I'm in Florida, all along the coast, all the way to San Diego. I had 110 offices planned, right? That was the goal. And running, 3 offices here locally, I realized that to do that was going to cost me millions of dollars. I had to get licensed in every state. And I didn't know that I had it in me anymore to do that. And my entrepreneurial spirit does, but my, again, being 56, 50, well, I started the brokerage, I was 43, something like that, 40, 43, I think. I had more energy, but never knew how difficult it was to actually run a brokerage.
Right.
I thought people wanted to be successful like me. And what I realized is that most agents are pretty happy just being okay.
Yeah.
And that's a pain point for me. It's very difficult for me to watch people making $25,000, $30,000 a year that I know can make $100,000, $200,000 a year if they just implement. And most of the time don't. So I was going to build this stuff. So what this has done for me by joining EXP, I don't need to be licensed in any other states.
Right.
I have a brokerage within a brokerage. We've got a couple thousand agents growing all the time. This is, we're in November of 2022, just to give you a date stamp, because that's going to change when you listen to this, if you're listening to this next year. And I have growth regardless of me. So meaning I grow 2 to 3% every month if I do nothing. And the reality is I love what I do, because here's the best part of this company for me. My favorite part of running my brokerage was being able to help my agents grow to whatever level they chose to grow to, right? To coach them and mentor them. I love that part of the business. Hated the rest of it. I hated chasing people to be successful. And that's what you do as a broker. Hey, why did you show up to this meeting? Why didn't you come to this training? All this stuff you do. So now I have the blessing of working with all those people, agents, who are swimming toward me. So I don't work with people that don't want to work anymore. If you don't want to work, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, it was a
And
great.
if you leave, by the way, here's the other part. I want to touch this because it's really important. If an agent wants to leave me and EXP, right, which very few, last year out of my local group, I have 180 local agents. 4 of them left last year, right? None of them have sold a house. So when people leave, though, even if they're a really big top producer, which hasn't happened yet, it's only $2,800. Like when I used to lose an agent that was a big producer, I lose $40,000, $50,000, $60,000. Now I lose $2,800. It doesn't really affect my life anymore. So when I talk to people, I'm very sincere about it. I said, look, the most I'm going to earn from you is $2,800. That doesn't really change my life, but this will, and I can say this confidently now, if you plug in, this will change your life.
And I think that's a different level conversation, right? That I want to have with you right now. And then we'll kind of wrap it up. But I think let's link in also one of your normal, EXP Explain. We know, hey, 80-20 commission split, 16 grand cap, all the collaboration, training, world-class technology, all those things you go over. But let's talk specifically the 2 other things that are differentiators of EXP compared to any other brokerage, right? Is the revenue share, okay, which and stock, right? So revenue share, every brokerage has some kind of internal intrinsic motivation to help them grow on their own. Everyone, right? Some give postcards, some give umbrellas, some give, profit sharing. Other people get a percentage, like everybody. So everybody has that model, right? And then obviously the stock, as far as, hey, when you own something, when you're part of something, we just treat it differently, right? I think it kind of goes back to our collaboration and everybody sharing, and where that comment you made earlier, like on a broker, you're alone. Here, you're not on an island, right? You have right now, as of this video, 86,000+ other people to collaborate with. But we'll add in stuff about the team. But talk about, from a entrepreneur, broker, large team leader, the rev share and then the stock and success stories you've seen with that. Because the organization, there's no boundaries, right? It's just not your local MLS and like what your goals were. So hit on those two things, because I think that's obviously the big differentiator
okay.
of why so
Yeah.
many teams have joined.
Yeah, and so, and there's two, and we're gonna talk this is for brokers to, so I'm gonna talk from a
Sure.
broker
Yeah.
standpoint.
Different audience, right?
Leverage is the most important part of my model. I'm in 49 states and 7 countries right now. I could never have done that as an individual broker.
Yeah, say that.
Right.
So part of your organization, your brokerage within your brokerage, how
Right.
many people, how many countries, right? And then before you were just in Florida, right? So it's
Yeah, I was just in Brevard County, Florida, just one little county in Florida
Yeah,
with 3 little
right.
offices. And now I'm in 40, I have, again, on this date, I'm gonna hit 2,000 agents probably by tomorrow or the next day, at 1995. And I'm in 49 states. I haven't figured out which state I'm missing. I gotta figure that out this week. And we're in 7 countries.
It's not Kentucky.
No, I got you in Kentucky. But that's the leverage. I mean,
Yeah.
everything you talk about, and I'm going to talk from a business standpoint. These are the things that I went through to make this decision. Everything you read about success in business is about passive income. Everything. I don't care who you read, buy rental properties, have passive income.
Right.
I look at every agent, and I don't mean this in a callous way, but from a financial way, as a rental property. So if you have a rental property, right, you're going to make on average, because you finance it, about $200 a month, $2,400 a year. If I have a good agent, I'm going to make about $2,800, right? So if I have rental properties, the only problem is if I have an AC unit go out, right, in that rental property, I now have 3 years of no revenue. My guess is, Ben, you being one of our agents, your AC unit in your body is probably not going to go out. But homes don't also duplicate. Our agents duplicate. When I had my brokerage, I paid my agents $500 if they introduced somebody to the company.
Okay.
Now they get up to $2,800 based on their production year over year over year. So let me tell you a couple of quick stories that are really important.
Yeah.
One of my agents came to me in January of 2017, before we made the switch. So this is from an agent's perspective, okay? I think it's important to understand how beneficial this is for your agents. So she came to me and she was pretty much crying and didn't know how to pay for her daughter's college that was happening in 18 months. She was going to go to school in 2018, September. And at the time, what I said to her is sell more homes. She was part-time. She made about 60 grand a year. As a broker, all I can say is sell more homes.
As any broker, that's the only result, right?
It's the only solution.
Get back on that transactional treadmill and just run faster, right? And just go, right? There's no other alternative means of income solution. Yes.
And so I said to her, I said, that's how you're going to make that. If you make an extra $25,000 a year, you make an extra 3 to 5 sales, you'll make that up and you'll pay for college. She goes, but you don't understand. This is my last year with my daughter. I go, if I do that, I'm not going to spend the last year with my daughter. And I get that because I said earlier, I did not see my kids grow up. I'm an entrepreneur. I worked 80 to 100 hours a week my entire life. So anyways, fast forward to September 2018, to June of 2017 when we joined. I pulled her in. I said, Katie, there's an opportunity for you to have someone else pay for your college for your daughter. So fast forward to 2018, she had 7 people she personally brought into the company. She had 28 total. She was making between $1,500 and $2,000 a month, and EXP paid for college for her daughter.
That's awesome.
Right. Had another couple that they're getting ready to join us right now. This is a great story. And these stories are important because these are real stories of real people, how this company is affecting them. Absolutely. So I met with this couple, lovely couple. They had to bring their 3-year-old to the interview because they couldn't find a babysitter. They were paying their broker $48,000 more a year than they would have paid EXP. And I looked at them, and by the way, they were never leaving their broker. They love their broker. Sure. And I said, look, I can 100% appreciate your loyalty to your broker, being a broker. But let me ask you a question. Who do you love more? Do you love your daughter or do you love the broker? She said, well, our daughter, of course. I go, then why are you paying her college education to the broker? That's why they're switching over. So when you look at it, it does come down to your family. I did this for my family. I did this for my agents too, but I really did this for my family because here's the beauty right now. In talking about pain, I'm still, I'm 61 years old right now. Luckily, I'm in awesome health. I just at the doctor today, she goes, "You're in incredible health." I go, "I know." And but if I die today, my wife is licensed.
Right.
And she just steps in. So remember at the beginning of our conversation, if I die, what happens to my family?
Right.
I
Legacy.
can die today knowing that I have a huge legacy that not just goes to my wife. If my wife dies, my daughter's licensed, my 3 boys are getting licensed right now. My 13 and 16-year-old grandkids know that when they turn 18, they have to get licensed, not to sell property, but to continue the legacy. Because you see, if I die, I still grow 2 to 3% a month.
Right.
And that to me, as a human
So
being, especially
just to bring this back, I'm gonna give you a very softball question. So Mitch, are you saying that if you're an agent with EXP and the rev share dollars that is being generated by people who you brought in the organization, are you saying if in the case of some untimely and very sad tragic event, that money is willable and can be transferred on to someone else in your family? Is that what you're saying?
that's what I'm saying.
All right.
And that's,
I knew the answer, but I wanted to,
it's a blessing though. Yeah, but it's
I don't think a lot of people know that, right? But yeah.
No, I mean, I've seen in the past couple of years, I've seen a few of my friends die locally who have brokerages, and it did exactly what I thought it would do. All their agents left within minutes, and their family got nothing. And so for me, it was really about making sure that my family was taken care of if something happens to me.
Mhm.
And here's the worst one though, is you don't die, is you get incapacitated. So think about it. So one of our friends at EXP fell off a ladder.
I heard that story, EXPCon, the Gene, I mean, that was
Yeah.
was
Yeah,
an
Bob,
emotional 45 minutes.
Yeah, I was with him this week, actually, Bob, the guy that fell. And he fell off a ladder, didn't work for 9 months, but yet was making $35,000 a month from his organization and didn't miss a beat. I could have a stroke today and be incapacitated, and I know my family's taken care of. So even because if you don't die, it's worse than dying. If you're dying, most of us have some sort of life insurance policy. But if you don't die, you're screwed. So
Well,
it's a
unless
life-changing opportunity.
unless you have this platform, right? I mean, the legacy, the business, residual income, I mean, all of those things come into play. So
And then the stock, of course, I want to give you my stock story because of the stock stories. So
Yeah.
like I said, Katie's daughter, EXP paid for Katie's daughter's college education pretty much. She goes, I had to come out like $5,000 a year out of my pocket to pay for college. Katie's daughter's now graduated college and she's debt free, right? So she had no debt. From a stock perspective, I have some agents that use it as a safety net.
Sure.
And people like myself, I actually sold half my stock and paid off everything a few years ago, 2 years ago. But I'll give you a quick story. One of my agents came to me, I'm going to say this is probably January of 19. So I was really, as a broker, my agents would come to me in January all the time and say, hey, Mitch, can you give me a loan? I need a few $1,000s to pay my mortgage, whatever. And I always did it because I knew I controlled the money, right? I knew they were producers. I knew I'd get the money back. So he came to me, he says, Mitch, I need a few $1,000s. Can you lend me a few $1,000s? I said, no, I can't. I'm not a bank anymore. And I couldn't because I didn't control the money. So I said, did you do the stock thing? Now, one of the blessings of EXP is you can take 5% of your commission and buy the stock at a 10% discount, on top of getting awards for doing different achievements over the year.
Yeah.
So he said, yeah, I did. I go, how much stock do you have? He had no idea. I go, well, let's take a look. He had earned in the 18 months we were with EXP, he earned 1,200 shares.
Okay.
Of stock. And at the time it was $11 a share. So he sold 1,000 of those shares and actually ended up being an Icon agent 4 months later, and got the $16,000 he paid in cap back in stock. So he used that money, those as a safety net. I have another agent that struggles and they'll go on streaks. They're very streaky. They'll kill it for 6 months and terrible for 3 months. And they pay their bills when they're broke. They pay their bills with their stock.
Yeah.
So I had another agent that came to me and she cashed in $80,000 in stock to redo her house.
I've heard that story. And yeah, little summary bullet point for people. So you're able to get stock, right? 5% of every closing, you get a 10% discount. Your first closing, I believe it's 200. And then if you cap that year, it's 400. If you do sponsor an agent and their first closing, you get $400 in that 1 year. And then obviously the Icon program, where if you cap and then hit another milestone of basically 20 full transactions after you cap, you can get that $16,000 back. Right. So, I mean, that's all the ways where the company gives back and where everybody becomes, it's like it's a wonderful ESOP. I mean, obviously we're not employees, but it's just,
yeah. But here's another part of that that's important is if you die, and you have award stock that's not been vested yet, it's a 3-year vesting, it automatically vests.
Oh, really? Okay.
And a lot of people don't know that. So I've got about, I don't know, $150,000 out non-vested stock right now. Right? If I die today, that $150,000 of stock goes to my wife.
I will say it's, yeah, it's been, I've been with the company about, since April of 2021. And obviously I thought about it for months and months, and you and I, connected months before I made a move, but I've been extremely blessed, only being an agent and having you as a business partner as well, but also being a broker and being a staff employee. It's truly inspiring as far as just not just the collaborative approach, but just the brilliant real estate focused minds of across the country that do, but also the agent centric mindset as far as everything that was done that Glenn and everybody else did create at the very beginning, as far as what's the ideal brokerage I would want to work for or create. And that's what's been created. Like, I mean, all of these little things, it's so, I've used the word before, like, it was just refreshing as far as every turn. I mean, the transparency, and everything that's so agent centric. It's,
I want to talk about for a second on that, because I want to touch on that a little bit. The collaboration is a direct result of the stock.
yes,
We all own the company.
right.
But I did an analysis recently of my 2,000 agents, and because you always want to see, as I'm running a brokerage within a brokerage, right? So I want to see who's leaving and why they're leaving.
Right.
So we did an analysis of my last 12 months, and as well since January, and 90% of the ones that have left have been between 2 to 0 transactions. So 2 or less transactions. 90% of those have left, right?
Mhm.
And it was like 98% that did 5 or less transactions. And 75% of that 90% has 0 transactions. What hasn't left, like on your brokers, that you have a brokerage out there,
Right.
what's not leaving is the people that are producing. So it's opposite of most brokerages. The other agent, the less producing agents will stick along as long as you'll keep them.
Yeah.
But you lose your top producing agents, they go, they cycle in and out. With EXP, the top producing agents do not leave.
It's a wonderful point. And obviously not saying, I mean, and I've talked with a couple brokers locally, regionally as well, but like that fear of agents leaving, like, and yes, there's always outliers, but like at EXP, like I always, hey, we win financially, we win culturally, we win from a support standpoint if people plug in, right? And if those are the 3 pillars of why someone's with a brokerage, like you have the personal, you have everything. So agents leaving to go somewhere else where obviously, and there's tons of great brokers in my area, Northern Kentucky and Cincinnati, who I respect and know, but like it's being strong on all 3 is a very hard thing to do. And I think you're right. A lot of EXP agents don't leave for money elsewhere, right? Or for better support or culture. So yeah.
Yeah. So as a broker out there, whoever you're talking to right now about joining EXP, get them, get with them, get them on a call with me or with Ben, and we can sit there and explain to you in detail your situation, because everybody's situation is a little bit different. I'll give you an example of the guy up north that made $104,000 profit with his 350 agents. He can't switch. His overhead's too high. He dug himself in so deep in overhead, he can't join. I had a lot of overhead, but I'm an entrepreneur. And even though I switched over $65,000 a month in overhead, within 3 months, I got down to 35,000. Within 6 months, I got it down to 8,000.
Yeah.
Because EXP gives you all the stuff that you need to run your brokerage within a brokerage. So it's one of my favorite lines is, don't say no to something you don't know what you're saying no to. Do your homework. And, we're about to hit, in November of 2022, we're about to hit a change in our market. We're all seeing it right now. And a lot of brokers are going to go out of business. And they don't have to. They can build a brokerage within a brokerage, make more money, have more leverage, have more freedom, and more importantly, less stress. I work 35 to 40 hours a week now, playing a rock band with my grandkids, baseball 3 or 4 nights a week with my grandson. I'm truly living the life I thought I was going to live as a broker. And I think that's probably, if you get nothing out of this today,
Yeah.
that's the most important message I can give you. I'm living the life that I started a brokerage for, that I thought I was going to have. I don't have prison and babysitting anymore. I have leverage and freedom, and I want that for you. I want it for everybody.
It's a great point. I mean, right, I mean, people always say, hey, entrepreneurs, business owners, brokers, right? That same brain, like we'll work 80 hours a week, so we don't have to work 40 hours a week for someone else, right? But there's a way of a path of leverage and growth and legacy where there's a way to get off that broker treadmill, that transactional treadmill, right? As far as running that business, that's eye-opening and life-changing for sure. So,
It lets me do the things I love. I love speaking in public, so I do seminars, right? Contribution seminars. They're not even branded EXP seminars, just seminars. All my agents all around the world now have me as a coach if they want me, and some do. And most of my people are really successful, so they don't need me as a coach. They may call me, I'm looking to expand my team, or they might call me about, I'm known as the godfather of internet lead conversion, so they might call me about, lead systems and how to convert leads better. But they're not calling me to say, how do I fill out a contract?
Yeah, right.
Right. They're not calling me at 10 o'clock at night. Hey, I have to write this contract and I have to have it submitted by 8 o'clock in the morning because it's multiple offers. They're not calling me for that. I went on vacation. I want to talk about freedom for a second because I think it's important. I went on vacation last year for a month for the first time ever since I've been in real estate.
I remember that.
And I got 5 phone calls the entire month. 5. And that's freedom.
Yeah.
It's truly freedom. So
right.
Don't say no to what you say. You know what you say no to.
Yeah, and you hit on earlier, and I think that coming from a place of contribution, that's one core value, and you and I hit on from day one, right? And I think that's similar mindset we have with both the agents we work with, and also their brokers teams or people within our own organization. That the amount of help and giving and contribution to empower and push each other up is it's rewarding. It's so rewarding. I know that's one thing that motivates you and I together, of that passion of helping and supporting. So I just want to say thank you, obviously from a personal thing, how grateful I am as far as your mentorship and friendship and everything else. But thanks for hopping on the call today. And
Sure.
any other final words of wisdom?
Give it a real hard thought. Look at your life, look in the mirror, because that's what I did. Look in the mirror and talk to yourself. Don't lie to yourself about where you are right now. A lot of people are losing so slowly, they think they're winning, right? Look in the mirror and have a really honest conversation. Are you happy? Do you love your life? I mean, I love being the guy, but I didn't love my life, right? Do you love working 80 hours a week? Let me show you a better way. There's a better way.
Right. Just have a conversation, right?
That's
Which
it.
should be a plan B, right?
Yep.
So, Mitch, thank you. Greatly appreciate
All right,
it. Awesome insight as always, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks, Ben. Talk to you later, buddy.
See you, Mitch.